Welcome to the Dave Grenier podcast, where we talk about photography and other creative things. Today we're joined by Jason Liu from Flyby Robotics. Him and his team have been developing a Matrice 300 style drone that's 100% made in North America. It's a hot button issue for a lot of drone pilots. We all know about what's going on. So I wanted to have a conversation about that and some of the additional tech and when this drone is going to be available. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into this interview. Hey, Jason, what's going on? How you doing? Thanks for being here. Appreciate you coming on the show. I wanted to chat with you about drones because that's what you're all about. And you got a pretty interesting company that's developing a really rad drone. And I just wanted to chat with you about it because it's pretty cool. So why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, what's unique about your company, kind of just rap about it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for having me, David. I'm Jason Liu. I'm the co-founder CEO of Flyby Robotics. And what we're building is a made in America NDAA-compliant UAV that's made in Los Angeles, California. It can match the spec of a really popular DJI drone called the DJI Matrice 300. And the reason why that size matters is that with drones, most people think of drones, they think of the really small stuff like the Mavic 3, the Skydio 2. But what we're seeing is a lot of people in the industry side, they're looking for something that can lift a payload that's meaningful. So for us, we have 6 pounds of payload capacity. It is built to be a flying computer, essentially. A brain, we call it a brain that puts in the Pelican case you can carry everywhere and just happens to be able to fly. So 6 pounds of payload capacity, 50 trillion operation per second of onboard GPU power. And we open that up as a developer, as an operator. You can use that power to do whatever you need in your respective industry.
Yeah, and so for those that don't know the Matrice, because a lot of my audience so far right now are very consumer level minded, like you said, the Mavics. So those are the little guys that fold up. The Matrice is like a tank. They're pretty big boys. You see for these enterprise level multi payload, so you can have the different LiDAR or regular cameras and thermals that you like, these high end things, and so you have this versatile drone that you can attach different payloads to, right?
Oh, absolutely. The Matrice 300 form factor, that 6 pound form factor, roughly 20 inches, is the biggest you can go without being an overly cumbersome thing to move around and transport. So the drone that we currently built, it fits in the back of my Honda Elantra. You can actually drive around to different places. You can take it onto a plane. Anything bigger than that, you start going into the HEX territory, like an M600 or any sort of HEX or octocopters. It becomes just way too hard to transport, which is why we found that this M300 size, Matrice 300 size, 20 inches, 6 pound payload capacity, 20 max tow is a really sweet spot for industrial operators.
Yeah, and so do you have to assemble it like with the arms? You put the arms on, you twist them on. Are they twist lock? Yep. Or it's a twist lock system, right?
Yes. So you
nice,
fold it
quick
up.
And easy.
You can fold it back in, fold it up, twist lock, put on the landing gear, and you're ready to go.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that was really cool about your website. And for those, I'm going to link it in the description of this podcast, video and audio, for people to go check it out. One of the things that's kind of a hot button issue right now, as you know, and everybody else is kind of aware, is the Made in America stuff is a big deal, especially if you have government contracts, the bigger things, where they don't want you to, they want to be able to kind of know everything that's going on within the drone and not worry about the spy stuff, so that was I think this coming at this time is so kind of, I don't want to say critical, but it's really good timing because on the forums, whenever I'm on forums, people are always concerned about that. They're always like, oh, you have other companies that have an American presence, but they are outside the United States is like their kind of their main corporate headquarters. So, but you guys are based in LA. That's where your headquarters are.
Yes, we are. We're based in Los Angeles. Our entire company are American citizens or Canadian citizens, so we're all North Americans. And we also assemble the drones from Los Angeles. The components are sourced from American, European, Australian, or Israeli companies. So the entire supply chain from top to bottom, we try to minimize any use of hardware and components from Russia or China.
Yeah, that's definitely a breath of fresh air for a lot of people I know. So let's talk about computing power. You kind of touched on it a little bit. You were saying that it was a brain, like in a case. So
Yes.
that was another thing in pre-show when we were chatting. I was like, damn, this this thing seems like really. I could follow most of it, but I mean, even it was above my pay grade. So, like, why don't you talk about the computing power and what you're talking about with that?
Oh yeah. So what's happening right now is, for the first time in human history, we can start putting a lot of computational power on a relatively small footprint. If you look at the evolution of computing, it went from, to do any substantial computing task, it went from computer size of an entire building to a closet to a desktop computer. But now we have GPUs that's been built by NVIDIA, Qualcomm, and others, that now can fit on a drone. And there's smartphone level computing power, which has been done before. You got the Skydio stuff. They're pretty
Mm-hmm.
smart. They got a Skydio drone. They have 1.3 trillion operation per second of on edge processing power. You can start running deep neural nets on it to do some machine learning things. However, but that is still really limiting. 1.3 trillion operations per second is really limiting. Even 10 trillion operations per second is quite limiting. However, what we are now be able to provide for developers and also for operators is running application on edge in real time on these drones on a GPU that supports 50 trillion and even 100 trillion operation per second of processing power. So these drones are getting a lot more intelligent, and if you can think of like intelligence as actually just downstream effect of computational power, there's a lot more potential that you can do with these drones going forward. And we want to be the platform provider for that. So we don't we are in Switzerland on application that run on our drones. So we want other developers who want to utilize that computational power to build stuff with the GPUs that we provide on these drones. And what we do is give you the developer tools and also give you a hardware, a drone that's straight from the box, that you can easily turn it on and fly.
Yeah, so that's for me. That's one of the things I like to do some mapping. And I have the Mavic 3, and anybody that's listened to me on my channel knows that as of this recording, we still don't have the SDK available for the Mavic 3. So as as amazing of a drone that is, it's not. I don't have the capability to use a third-party program like Drone Deploy or Litchi or any of these other things to do the mapping that I want to do. And I can do it manually, and I can kind of use some of the waypoint missions to, but I can't do the grid patterns and things that I really want to do. And so for me, the SDK is kind of a hot button issue, so it's and so the fact that you guys are so active with like, hey, let these other companies develop for kind of problem solving whatever the community needs to be problem solved, use our equipment. That's really encouraging to me. I really like that.
Absolutely. We were DJI developers in the past as well. We worked with the DJI SDK to build application on top of the M300, and that was the frustration that we came across. You don't have the number of ports. You don't have your SDK changes every 12 months, and every time they do a change, it messes you up. So we want to take a different approach with that experience, and provide a better offering to the developer community that's out there. This is a product that is built by developers and pilots for developers and pilots, and that is our philosophy within the company. Is we want to make that as easy as possible. We even have a loaner program where if you're it's only available for developers, and you do have to sort of tell us what you're doing. But if you're doing something interesting, you can join a loaner program, and we will lend you a Flyby F11 drone between 3 to 6 months, depending on how long you need a drone for. And we'll give you a damage-free waiver, so you can even get your hands on the unit without having to spend 16K to buy one.
That's really cool. And what I like about that is that it's because you guys are pilots and developers, like
Yeah.
you're part of the community already.
Mm-hmm.
You're not
Yes.
you're not just guys that have seen a business opportunity and said, "Oh yeah, let's get into that." I like drones, and I can put propellers together and stuff.
Yep.
And that's what's so cool. that you guys are part of that community, so you want to be just kind of extend that. And so you've already seen these issues that people are talking about and saying, well, let's fix that. We can do better. We can make that develop that for future, not future proof, because nothing is future proof, but to help that evolve.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's awesome. I love that.
Thank you, Dave.
So if people want to get a hold of you to do those loaner programs, how do they do that?
I'll just send us an email at jason@flybydev.com.
Okay.
Literally on the website, let's hop on a Zoom call, working what you're building. Of course, we want to make sure people are not building anything for nefarious purposes.
Yeah.
Our drones are equipped with swarm radio, so you can control 5 of them, and they all talk to each other, and they know how what the distance they are from each other at any time. So it's really easy for it to do swarm things with our drones. So we do want to be cognizant of that. But if you're working on something cool, you're building something that's beneficial to the ecosystem, we'd love to have any developer of that kind to join our loaner program.
I've seen swarm technology, but not with big Matrice size drones.
Nope.
So like I can only imagine
the little ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, can you touch on that? Do you guys already have something kind of in mind of like, oh yeah, we were thinking, let's say mapping. It's like you could do this whole forest in 10 minutes because you have 6 drones versus one.
Exactly. So some of the potential applications, usually for pilots, you have a limited window where you can do stuff. You got sunset happening where you start losing light, or it could be weather. So being able to do your job with a shorter amount of time is of importance for people. Flying 2 matrices in a single operating area is hard, because if you don't coordinate with each other, if you crash 2 drones together, you're down 30 grand, maybe 40 grand if you have a good sensor attached to it. So we engineered our stack to be swarm capable from day one. Now, we don't build any swarm solutions. We want the developer ecosystem to take it and to do whatever you need with it, whether that's mining type things, whether that's mapping for a forest, or that is something more tactical. But we have the hardware on the drones that come out of the box that supports swarm capability, and the developer community can use that and to build that whatever imagination that you guys want. And for us, we're in Switzerland on any application developed on top of our drones, and we're open to doing distribution agreements, where your intellectual property that you created using a flyby drone is protected, and that's that you own, and we don't go in there and compete and copy your feature. That's been there's another giant out there in the drone space that's known to do that. I won't name exactly who. We all know who they are, who does that, and that's pissing developers off. And I don't know why they did that, because they want to own the entire enterprise space themselves. But from our experience, like it's people are creative, people want to build things, and we want to create a tool to unleash that creativity without worry that like, hey, we're going to come in and start ripping off your features, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and I think that's another big thing of. I mean, you see this even in the gaming industry, where everything feels like a microtransaction nowadays, and you pay full price for the game and it's broken on launch, and it takes 6 months to a year before it's playable to what it should have been. But meanwhile, there's all these microtransactions to, buy this thing because it actually looks cool and that's how you want it to look, but you know what I'm talking about. Because I know that you've played a few games. But it's frustrating to buy something and then be blocked from further development of it. And I think that adds more loyalty to your product, to your company, to say, hey guys, we're here for you. Here's our product. This is the thing. Tell us what you want. Oh, hey, that's really cool that you've done that. Like in the gaming industry, there's all these mods, like the modding community keeps games alive. And like, it's like games like Skyrim are still going strong after 10, 12. I don't even know how, I lost count, but like it's Minecraft. Yeah. And Cyberpunk 2.0 is coming out pretty soon here. And the modding community had a lot of inspiration to get where that's kind of a reboot. But anyway, that's kind of off topic, but it makes me think of like, it's so encouraging to hear what you're saying. And I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
And it's awesome. So
that's a perfect analogy. We want these drones to be like a game that you can get but you can mod and have mod support for developers. That what happened to that gaming industry there. Like I'm a huge fan of this game called Sins of a Solar Empire. It came out in like
Yes,
2010, and I
I know
still
it.
play it
Yeah,
because of the mods,
yeah,
right? I believe the same thing should happen to drones, where you buy a drone, but can do a lot more things. And you're able to do a lot more of these things because of the ecosystem that's being supported and then it's developed. And I truly think that's how we grow as an industry. We want 50% year over year growth in the drone sector. That's the way we do it, not I'm going to come in there and declare war on the payload developers, the service providers, and the application developer at the same time. And I'm going to not let you use the ports because I'm the one who's controlling the platform.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's I've lost. I don't know. Again, I've said this before, but it is a very big point of frustration. And part of the thing that I want to do on my channel is to give some voice to other people. And there's not to beat a dead horse, but I bought the Mavic 3 when it first came out. It was like within the 6 months. And traditionally, they've always given an SDK after a year and a half, maybe, you know. And so there's things I was like, I bought it early, and not a lot of the features were out yet. You know, they had firmware updates. They couldn't even shoot RAW yet. And for me as a photographer, I need to shoot RAW. I don't need to, but I can appreciate RAW, and I love shooting RAW versus JPEG. JPEG is great. There's no issues with it, but RAW gives you that extra functionality from post-production standpoint. But I was an early adopter, you know, but I was expecting the SDK to come out, and so were a lot of other people that bought it. And there's multiple forums where people are saying like, hey man, where's the SDK? And originally DJI said, yeah, we're going to give you the SDK. And then later on it was, oh, we're focusing on enterprise level drones, not consumer level drones. It's like, okay, I get that. Meanwhile, they're developing their enterprise level Mavic series. And so the Mini 3 Pro came out with the SDK. It was like earlier this year, sometime in February. And that to me was a big punch in the gut, because there's a lot of us Mavic 3 users that bought it with the intention of using it for what we've used other drones for in the past. And so it's really kind of like it appears that they want to sell their enterprise level Mavic 3s and not eat into their profits because now there's like what 5-6 different versions of the Mavic 3. And I get it from a business standpoint, but there's a lot of people, there's polls and stuff online. There's an active one right now that, you know, people are frustrated that it seems like that, like, hey, give us your money. And then like, just kidding. You're not going to get that. And it's, I kind of got lost on a tangent there, but there was a point with the SDK and the loyalty, I think, is what I was getting at, and something that you said. I'll see it in post.
Well, the reason why they do that is because, you know, you're selling what $1,000 to $3,000 drones. You don't make that much margin on it, you know, just from a pure revenue perspective. So they have to do these stupid things to make money. And for us, our philosophy is, hey, look, our drones are 16.5 on the entry level. They are more expensive than the Chinese ones, right? But you know, they are American made, and you're not going to get the bullshit. Yes, it is a little bit expensive, but you're not going to get the bullshit, and you get the American made product. And that's a different philosophy to what DJI is doing, and is a different business model. And our way of building loyalty and also building a strong brand is also, of course, a different business model. But that's because, you know, we're selling a higher pricier product from like a base price perspective, and that allows us to position ourselves to do that in the community.
Yeah, well, I guess that's I think that's where I was going with it, was that you create, the community becomes your champions. It's like, yeah, okay, I had to spend X number of dollars. It's an enterprise level thing, so of course it's going to be above 10K. But it's the fact that you're letting us do what we need to do with it. That's so important. So anyway, I want to keep on going because I value your time, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. Mesh radio, that was something that we had also talked about before. So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so what mesh radio allow us to do is for these drones to talk to each other. But originally, we put them on to support dual controller functionality in an easier way. But what we quickly realized is that there are a lot of instances where you also want the drones to talk to each other as they're flying. The most common thing is like, and I've been an operator. I flew two DJI M300s within 300 feet of each other, and it is a scary experience having because it's a $10,000 drone, $10,000 sensor, $40,000 in the air, and you crash them into each other. It's $40,000 down the drain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a drone operator, you're limited by the airspace. You're basically like you basically have to do like the one drone per operating area type of way of flying. And of course, I'm sure there's like military grade stuff that's out there that costs 100K that could do swarm things. But that's not accessible from the price point for commercial and enterprise. So that's why when we design these drones and we're making them, we're like, we could put a mesh radio in for $500 more. So let's just do that. So
Yeah.
day one, every single flyby drone have mesh capabilities, and you can assemble a swarm of a certain size. Of course, we will putting safety guardrails in there to limit some number of drones, because at some point you try to control 30 of these is kind of get a little scary. So we will put in some guardrails for that. But we want you want to do through 2 or 3 drones in the same surface area, don't crash into each other. We want to provide that to the hardware support to be able to do that. So developers who are making those applications who want to take advantage of that can. And for operators who want to use those applications, well, they can buy the flyby drone and benefit from things that are created by these developers.
Yeah, that's to touch on your point about like having this swarm and even if it's just two birds up in the air.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, if you're near airports and if you do have like waivers and you say, hey, I need a flying waiver to get in this airspace, and you only have maybe an hour or 2, depending on the size of the airport or what your waiver is. So you have to get everything done in a very short period of time. So I'm looking forward to that. I can see several cases where even in my own business, that would be very useful. So that's again, I'm already a fanboy. Okay. So if people want to get involved, how would they do that? How do they get in touch? I know that you said earlier, just email you. Your email's on the website. Is it the same email for people to get in touch if they wanted to see what's going on? I know they can visit the website.
The same email. So I am a developer and operator. So I've been through both shoes. The best way to get involved with us, just email jason@flybydev.com. Dev is even in our URL. Like literally flyby developer. It's an old name, but we just keep on using anyways. Also flyby.com is taken. So flybydev.com, jason@flybydev.com. If you'd like to purchase a unit, I'm also happy to hop on a call with you. Or Joseph, which is our head solution engineer, to talk about what is the system that you need and how we can help to provide that for you. And you're a developer, also email me as well, and we'll talk from there.
And then when do you expect these drones to be available?
We are shipping the first batch of them this October. It's for government users. They're doing some pretty insane things which I cannot disclose on a podcast. But the government guys are shipping first, followed by folks that are on our pre-order backlog in construction, oil, and gas.
Okay, yeah, and so that makes total sense. So at some point, right now you're just fulfilling the pre-orders, but then at some point, if people wanted to purchase them, regular I'll say regular drone users, that would be available on your website, or are you looking to go into different resellers, or not sure at this moment?
Yes, so it will be available on our website. The reason why we're doing the pre-orders system is because we're seeing a lot of demand for these things, and we can fill in a short amount of time. So we have to be a little more cognizant of managing the supply of these drones. But we want to get to a point where, just like DJI, you can get on a website and you can just buy it and it ships to you in a week. Of course, that's not an easy thing to do, right? DJI is a $16 billion company, and they can do that. I am a smaller company, but that is my goal, is to be able to get there. And for developers, Developers are also a prioritized group in our thinking. So if you're a developer operator, we're prioritizing your order. If you're a developer and part of the loaner program, we also prioritize your order. So that is the sequence of deliveries that we're looking to do.
Awesome. Well, Jason, is there anything else that you wanted to bring up that I didn't ask or that we didn't talk about?
Oh no, just thank you so much for doing this, Dave. Like, not a lot of folks are exploring new stuff, so it's always great to be on these podcasts and get the word out there that Flyby Robotics exists and we're building these things to serve the greater community.
Yeah, hey, I appreciate you taking the time, really, even just because I geek out over this. So I'm sure that I'm going to have other questions and from the community that happens to respond to this. And then I'll kind of ping you after that, and then I might actually ping you for Sins of a Solar Empire, because it's been a while since I played that, but I used to love that game. I loved it.
There's so much fun.
Yeah, yeah, it's an amazing. If you guys haven't played that, so you still play it? It's still available. You can still
you can still play it. Yeah.
Okay, I highly recommend it.
Too.
Yeah,
you can do a whole Star Wars conversion. It's amazing.
Oh, no way. Oh God. All right. Now you're just really hitting on all my nerd points. So, all right. Well, thank you very much, Jason. I'll be in touch. Hopefully other people will ping you, but you don't get overwhelmed. I mean, you're doing some great stuff, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you so much, Dave. Really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
All right. That's the interview. I had a really good time talking to Jason. It's always super cool when you get to nerd out and talk about this kind of stuff. I'm going to try to stay up to date on Flyby and keep you guys up to date. Until next time, fly safe and be good to each other.